One of the most incredible but rare occurrences in sports is the reverse sweep, especially in a best-of-7 series. It's only happened 4 times in NHL history and just once in the MLB and NBA combined. Facing a 3-0 series hole against the Pittsburgh Penguins, the young 1975 New York Islanders looked like a third-year franchise that had overachieved and was still light years away from contending for a Stanley Cup. But beneath their inexperience was a remarkable foundation for the next NHL powerhouse. With the help of an extraordinary backup goaltender, 2 savvy midseason trades, a legend of a coach in the making, and some elephant poop, we'll get to that later, the Islanders astonished the hockey world and began a steady climb toward a dynasty. Before the Pittsburgh series even started, the 1975 Islanders had already experienced a watershed moment, qualifying for the playoffs for the first time, and in just their 3rd season. To truly appreciate the achievement and the transformation of the franchise, we have to rewind to year 1.
Here come the hapless Islanders. Every city we went into, that was the word that we saw in big, bold print.
That team was so bad, on a geological scale, they were subterranean.
The inaugural season team looked like a dumpster fire from the get-go, compiling the NHL's worst record in 29 years. They allowed more than double the number of goals they scored, and only one player eclipsed the 20-goal mark. The growing pains were, well, all we have to do is just look at their league record 60 losses, but such futility was short-lived. General manager Bill Torrey and his scouts were wizards at forecasting superstar talent and embraced the draft to assemble a competitive club. First up were franchise cornerstones Billy Harris and Bob Nystrom in '72. Next was the coveted consolation prize of the first overall pick in '73, which Torrey used to select otherworldly defenseman Denis Potvin.
He was a man amongst boys in junior. He was clearly the right guy to build a franchise around.
He was hard-nosed, he hit, right, and he could hurt you.
Then with the 4th overall selection in '74, the Isles brought in power forward Clark Gillies and struck pay dirt in the 2nd round with the franchise's all-time leading scorer, Bryan Trottier. He didn't start playing until a year later though. With a shrewd brain trust in the front office and budding young talents, the Islanders needed to complete the picture with a leader behind the bench. Under the tutelage of 9-time Stanley Cup champion Scotty Bowman, 38-year-old Al Arbour proved to be the perfect fit for the developing franchise.
I remember well that first day you said we'd go out for a light skate, and 2.5 hours later, we were still out there.
We knew if we were playing bad on the ice, the crap was going to hit the fan when he came in, and he knew how to get us going. Love that guy.
I remember Scotty Bowman told me, you're going to be in last place for 10 years. As we'll see.
Arbour's defense-first approach quickly paid off, as his team allowed a whopping 100 goals fewer than the previous year. Potvin flourished, winning the Calder Trophy as Rookie of the Year and finishing runner-up for the Norris Trophy the next year. Goaltenders Billy Smith and the rookie they called Chico, Glen Resch, emerged as one of the best tandems in the league. Rookie Clark Gillies tied for 2nd on the team with 25 goals. And that January, the club bolstered its roster by acquiring forwards Jude Drouin and JP Parise from the Minnesota North Stars. Finishing the season with 88 points, the Islanders advanced to the postseason. Their first test came in the preliminary round, a 3-game series against their crosstown rival and an Original 6 franchise, the New York Rangers.
All we've been hearing is the Rangers, 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 even at the Coliseum.
We had to fight for our place on Long Island and in the NHL.
I mean, it was unbelievable. Swore and cursed at me words that I had never heard before. And all of a sudden I realized, boy, this is a tremendous rivalry here.
The Islanders battled back from down 2-0 to score thrice in the 3rd period and take Game 1 at Madison Square Garden, 3-2. But the young club featuring 9 players 23 and under was humbled in their own barn 8-3 in Game 2, setting up a winner-take-all at MSG. Now during this series, the Garden was hosting the world-renowned Barnum and Bailey Circus and housed some of the animals inside. That created a pungent stench that the visiting team ended up embracing. As written by hockey historian Andrew Podniks in his book Hockey Superstitions, a friend of Billy Harris bagged up some elephant poop and placed it inside the Islanders' locker room. This was to channel some of the competitive drive and resilience that the team showed in Game 1. The poop immediately fueled the Isles' attack as they struck for the first 3 goals. But as brilliantly as Billy Smith played, he found himself in a tie game with the final seconds of regulation trickling down. All the momentum was now with the home team, but this Islanders group thrived on flipping expectations upside down. 11 seconds into overtime, the newly acquired duo of Jude Drouin and JP Parise stunned the sea of blue shirts.
Let's score! It's over! Parise
I could not believe what was happening. All of a sudden, I got the open net, and the game was over.
And I think it started the team thinking, yes, that maybe we could win.
I thought we won the Stanley Cup, but I think that series made us feel like we had accomplished the same level of victory by beating the New York Rangers.
And to think, the playoff circus was only going to get wilder for the Islanders with some Penguins on the schedule. Don't think the poop was going to be left behind either. It too made the trip from the Big Apple to the Steel City. The Islanders were riding a wave of confidence, but they weren't quite prepared for the track meet that this series started out as. Unfortunately, very little footage of this series is available. The teams combined to average 78 shots on goal over the first 3 games. With an offense that featured 9 different 20-goal scorers, the Pens slipped the puck past Billy Smith 13 times, jumping out to a 3-goal lead in each of their games. Was it time for the poop to be put out to pasture? The Penguins clearly knew how to dictate the pace, and were getting offense out of all of their forwards at even strength. To add injury to insult, Coach Al Arbour had been experiencing back problems and had to spend time in the hospital when he wasn't behind the bench. And yet, the selfless young coach put the weight of the series squarely on his shoulders. He held a team meeting and, per historian Stan Fischler, shared, quote, "I apologize to you. I haven't been able to coach you in the manner that I'd like. My back has been giving me problems and I owe you guys an apology for not doing more for you all." End quote. But at the same time, he was able to rally his players with a stern but inspiring message.
Had a meeting and called all the guys close to me. And I told them, if anybody here doesn't feel that we're going to win this series, get in the dressing room, get your uniform off, and I never want to see you again.
It was a poignant moment, and I think it really gave us some confidence that maybe we could come back.
And we'd been playing well, but we just couldn't get any breaks. And then the breaks started to follow.
Even with a lucky bounce here and there, the Islanders needed to consistently put themselves in a position to succeed. They wrestled control of the series by forechecking harder and finishing their checks. Arbour made one other momentum-altering change, swapping out future Hall of Famer Billy Smith for rookie Chico Resch. And in case you were wondering, the poop wasn't going anywhere. The Isles began climbing back into the series by scoring the first goal of Game 4, a power play tally from Andre St. Laurent just 3:48 into the game. Clark Gillies and JP Parise broke a 1-1 tie less than a minute apart in the third period, and the Islanders lived to fight another day. For their next challenge, they had to pull off something they hadn't done in their first 3 years: win a game in Pittsburgh. Maybe changing hotels would give the boys a better night's rest. Once again, their power play came out buzzing, striking for the game's first goal at just 2:11 into Game 5. The Penguins upped the attack by outshooting the Islanders by 20, but they had a tough time solving Chico, who stopped 36 of 38 in a 4-2 victory. Back at the Coliseum for Game 6, the Islanders got on the board first once again. The Penguins equalized just 41 seconds later, but after that, Chico slammed the door shut. He stopped 31 of 32 shots to help his team become just the third in NHL history to force a Game 7 after trailing a series 3-0. It's hard to fathom a Game 7 in today's NHL featuring 2 fights in the first period, but that's exactly what went down at the Igloo on April 26th. Gillies fought Bob Paradise at 2:44. Then later in the period, Dave Lewis squared off against Battleship Bob Kelly, not to be confused with the Flyers Bob Kelly. The opening stanza wasn't without its chances though, especially for the home team. The Penguins blasted 2 shots off of Chico's mask and another 2 off the posts. Pittsburgh continued pumping pucks on net in the second period, heading into intermission with a 25-11 shot advantage. But that only seemed to raise the Islanders' confidence. "Even though we were being outshot, we stuck to our game plan," said Captain Ed Westfall. "Our energy level still was high and our discipline good." Chico added, "By this time, I figured that the longer we played, the better our chances." He continued holding down the fort in the third period, even stopping the flashy Pierre LaRouche on a breakaway with a head-first poke check. Shortly after, the Islanders' forecheck went to work, forcing a turnover to defenseman Bert Marshall. He seemed to be eyeing the streaking Drouin down the slot, but out of the corner of his eye, found his captain with 5:18 to play.
Ed Westfall puts the Islanders in front, 1-0.
Westfall later shared, "I knew I had a scoring chance and I told myself in that split second, don't hesitate, get it on the net, don't blow this chance." The Islanders didn't surrender any shots in the final minutes and completed the shutout.
The Islanders, with a miracle performance, win 4 straight after losing the first 3.
A great comeback by the New York Islanders.
I mean, who would ever think that we would accomplish what we accomplished in that 1975 playoff year? And no one ever thought we'd make the playoffs for the first 7 or 8 or 9 years, and here we are.
Poop had prevailed that night at the Igloo. The The Islanders became just the second North American pro sports team to pull off a reverse sweep in a best-of-7. It's such a rare feat that nearly 50 years later, there have been only 3 other reverse sweeps in the major American sports: the 2010 Flyers, 14 Kings, and 04 Red Sox in baseball. The comeback was indeed complete, but the run wasn't over yet. The semifinals pitted the Islanders against the intimidating Broad Street Bullies, the defending champion Philadelphia Flyers. Now, they were without Hall of Fame goaltender Bernie Parent for the first 2 games, but they were able to mostly contain the Islanders' attack. A 4-0 shutout to open the series, then 5-4 in Game 2 thanks to a Bobby Clarke overtime tally, and a 1-0 Game 3 shutout from Parent to put New York on the ropes. "Okay, we've got them where we want them now," joked Al Arbour. But in a sense, he was right, as all year long his team had thrived outside the spotlight. They began mounting their comeback by escaping Game 4 in overtime 4-3, with Jude Drouin potting the winner. Reggie Leach's buzzer beater in regulation had come a hair of a second too late. Drouin kept the mojo going with a goal and an assist in a dominant 5-1 Game 5 performance. The standout highlight, however, was Clark Gillies beating down the hammer Dave Schultz. Back on the island in front of a raucous Game 6 crowd, Denis Potvin notched his 5th goal of the playoffs. Chico outdueled Parent in a 2-1 nail-biter to set up another winner-take-all.
Drops it back, Hart the shot, tips it, try and good enough, blocked it. Hart a drive, score! Jerry Hart, a rising left shot over the raised gloved hand of Bernie Parent, and it's 2-1.
The Flyers were back in their own barn for Game 7, but they figured some extra luck wouldn't hurt. They flew in singer Kate Smith to belt out God Bless America, a song that had propelled Philadelphia to a record of 41 wins and just 3 losses. Smith actually stood in Chico's crease for her performance, disrupting the red-hot goalie from what Al Arbour called an elaborate pre-game ritual. Ed Westfall tried to counter Smith by bringing her a bouquet of flowers that a fan had sent to teammate Jerry Hart. The whole team followed him over to shake her hand. Unfortunately, the Isles were in for a rude awakening. Gary Dornhofer launched a 40-foot beam that zipped by Resch just 19 seconds in, and then Rick McLeish extended their lead on the power play just 2:08 later. The Islanders fought to the bitter end, falling 4-1 and were finally out of luck. Still, they put together one of the most remarkable postseason runs of the era. They won 8 straight games when facing elimination, an NHL record that still stands today. And they were 1 win away from pulling off consecutive reverse sweeps, something that may never happen, period.
It was a big turning point for our franchise, and I was, as a rookie, I was just happy as hell to be part of it.
In those days, Philly was so good, Boston was so good, Montreal was fantastic, and the Islanders, who the hell are they? Nobody expected what we did.
The Islanders of 1974-75, I think, took the major leap, a bigger leap than any team that we'd ever seen.
The Islanders' core of Potvin, Gillies, Bob Nystrom, and Billy Smith only grew stronger in the years ahead. First came future Hart Trophy winner Brian Trottier down the middle, followed by perhaps the best goal scorer the game had seen up until that point, Mike Bossy. The Islanders became the first non-Original Six franchise to become a dynasty as recognized by the Hockey Hall of Fame, winning 4 consecutive Stanley Cups, including the 1980 final against Bobby Clarke's Flyers.
Pass right on the stick of Tonelli, coming in with Nystrom. Tonelli to Nystrom, he scored! Bob Nystrom scores the goal! The Islanders win the Stanley Cup!
But as memorable as those championship runs will remain for decades, 1975 will forever stand as the gateway to the New York Islanders' greatness. What are some of your favorite comebacks in NHL history? Comment below and feel free to suggest other topics you'd like to see covered. Don't forget to leave a like before you go, and see the video description if you'd like to support our work with a donation, or even just say hello. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. We'll be back before you know it with another stellar feature on hockey's rich history.